I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
I am Ollie Johnson, Professor and Chair, Department of African American Studies at Wayne State University. I am on leave this academic year, and I'm also a Fulbright Scholar, so I'll be going to Brazil in March of this year, 2022, for 4 months to do research on Black political thought in Brazil, with a focus on Bahia, the state that has the largest concentration of Black folks, or Afro-Brazilians.
So even though we've heard that Brazil has one of the largest African populations outside of Africa, you're going to Bahia, which has one of the largest African populations within Brazil.
Yes.
Okay.
The largest in terms of percentage, about 75 to 80% of the state's population is of African descent, considers itself officially Black or brown, according to the Brazilian official census categories. And that's the state's population. And I'm going to be based in Salvador, which is the capital city of the state, which has a similar high percentage of Black folks. So I'm going to be going from Detroit, which has a 75 to 80% Black population, to a place in another country that also has a high percentage of Black folks. So it's going to be conducive to my research on Black politics and interacting with Black folks. So I'm very excited about it.
That you put it that way. So going from Detroit to Salvador, how would you describe the similarities and differences?
Well, I always say that there are a lot of similarities, but also some key differences. The main similarity is that both places have a history of Black struggle, history of Black involvement in the abolitionist movement against slavery, the labor movement, the women's movement, the neighborhood or grassroots movement. So there are a lot of Black folks in both Detroit and Salvador, Detroit and Bahia, and Black folks are present. Bahia is known throughout Brazil and the world for its strong West African influenced culture. So you have the famous Black Carnival groups, called those Blocos Afros, that have really become popular since the 70s. And they really mobilize the population for fun and entertainment, but there's also protests and a political message from the Black Carnival groups, protesting their situation and demanding improvements. So that's
Wait a minute, can you say another word or two about that? Because usually, I don't recall hearing much of the connection. Usually we hear about Carnival as party.
Yes.
What is say a little more, if you would, about the connection between that and protest? Or you say there's a relationship between
There is an intimate relationship between the two, and I will say that in the 1970s, during the military dictatorship in Brazil, there was a military dictatorship in Brazil from 1964 to 1985. During the 1970s, Carnival continued. There was Carnival during the military dictatorship, but Black youth in particular felt some kind of way because they were excluded from the main Carnival groups, which tended to be owned and operated by white folks. And so they were kind of excluded and marginalized, and as a result decided to form their own Black Carnival groups. And they did this in the mid-70s and the late 70s, and they became very popular with this majority Black population and had national impact. They were accused of being racist, They were accused of trying to imitate the United States, black folks in the United States with their segregationist policy. This is after they were excluded from the traditional carnival groups. But they weathered the reaction and have become nationally and internationally popular. There are many black carnival groups. The most popular are the first one, Ile, which was again founded in the 70s by young black folks who were excluded from traditional carnival groups, and the other one is Oludun, that did a music video or two with Michael Jackson when he was in Salvador. So these are internationally recognized black carnival groups that began as community groups, as neighborhood groups to get their party on in the mid-70s, but they brought their political concerns to the party. And I guess that's what I'm saying. And that has resonated with black folks in Salvador and throughout the country. You know, black folks in other parts of the country have embraced the black carnival groups out of Bahia. And so I'm gonna, be in Bahia and hope to interact with some of these black carnival group leaders, because most of the groups have a musical or entertainment wing, but also a social and political wing. And the social and political wing does their community service, does their educational program, does their health assistance, does their kind of interaction with the community when the party's not on. And so I know some of these folks, I know people who know them, so I'm optimistic that I'm going to be able to interview them and find out what they're doing right now. Because of COVID, I haven't been to Brazil in 3 years, since 2019. So I'm very excited about going. In the past, I've taken some of my students, Wayne State students, to Brazil for study abroad for 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm going to check out the situation, see how folks are responding to COVID. But I'm very excited about it. My question is, how have black leaders responded to racism in Brazil, to the dominant political ideology of racial democracy, which claims there's no racism or there is minimal racism in Brazil, and the reality that even though blacks are a majority of the population in the state of Bahia, they are dramatically underrepresented in government, in elective and appointed office. And that's a topic that I've studied for decades. And so I'm combining kind of a new research theme on black political thought with my traditional research theme of black political underrepresentation. I'm also intrigued by the reality that in recent years, black conservatives have gained new visibility in Brazilian politics. Right now, Brazil has a white conservative president, Jair Bolsonaro, who is very reactionary and has been for decades. And I'm a little surprised that he has a lot of black support among political elites, but also among the people. So I need to get a better understanding of the role of religion, the role of kind of the main political issues. Corruption has been a big issue in Brazil in recent years, and somehow the conservative movement was able to present themselves as crusaders against corruption, and that helped them get elected to office. And so some black conservatives were part of that movement, and so I hope to talk to them and interview them and get a better sense of their background and what their most important issues are.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.